On May 8, 2026, the United States government released over 160 classified files about UFOs. Some date back to 1944. None have been explained. But thousands of years before radar, someone else was already watching the skies. They called them unidentified anomalous phenomena, bureaucratic language for something that has no explanation. In May 2026, the United States Pentagon, under a program called PURSUE, the Presidential Unsealing and Reporting System for UAP Encounters, released more than 160 files, never before seen, declassified, and handed directly to the public. Pilots describing triangular metallic craft at 25,000 feet over the Mediterranean, an infrared object shaped like an 8-pointed star swerving in front of a naval jet, a football-shaped body hovering near Japan before vanishing in 9 seconds, Apollo 11 astronaut Buzz Aldrin reporting strange flashes inside the lunar cabin, files from the 1940s, diplomatic cables from Kazakhstan, Papua New Guinea, Mexico, reports from Iraq, Syria, the Persian Gulf.
Gemini Control here again. Earlier in the flight, you'll recall at the start of the second revolution, we had a reference to several objects that the crew spotted. This was in the area of Antigua. Due to a mechanical breakdown, we did not have that portion of the tape available for you.
In short, here is what was in the first release. More than 160 files, over 400 incidents spanning from 1944 to 2025, military infrared videos showing objects with no propulsion signature, an object described as an 8-pointed star-like body executing deliberate maneuvers in front of a US Navy jet, leaving an exhaust contrail for 1 minute and 46 seconds. Diplomatic cables from American embassies reporting sightings in Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Mexico. A 1994 account from a commercial pilot over Tajikistan at 41,000 feet. Reports of, and I quote, from the official AARO designation, orbs launching other orbs, which the All-domain Anomaly Resolution Office described as among the most compelling submissions. The Pentagon's own statement? No known explanation for the currently released videos. FBI Director Kash Patel called it, and again I quote, the first time in history the American people have unfettered access to declassified government files on unidentified anomalous phenomena. This is not conspiracy. This is the public record of the most powerful government on Earth, admitting it does not know what it is seeing in its own sky. Let us open a much older document. The year is approximately 593 BC. A Jewish priest named Ezekiel stands by the river Chebar in Babylon. He has been exiled from his homeland. He is not expecting anything. And then, the sky changes. Listen carefully to his description. These are not my words. This is the text of Ezekiel chapter 1, verses 4 through 28. And I want you to notice something as I read it. This is not metaphor. This is a man trying, in the vocabulary of the ancient world, to describe something he cannot categorize. A stormy wind came out of the north, and a great cloud with brightness around it, and fire flashing forth continually, and in the midst of the fire, as it were, gleaming metal. A great cloud, brightness surrounding it, fire flashing continuously, gleaming metal at the center. He continues, and from the midst of it came the likeness of 4 living creatures. These creatures had the form of humans, but each had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were straight, and their feet were like the sole of a calf's foot. They sparkled like burnished bronze. Now, this part stopped scholars cold. As I looked at the living creatures, I saw a wheel on the earth beside the living creatures, one for each of the 4 of them. As for the appearance of the wheels and their construction, their appearance was like the gleaming of beryl. And the four had the same likeness, their appearance and construction being as it were a wheel within a wheel. A wheel within a wheel. When the living creatures moved, the wheels moved beside them. When the living creatures rose from the earth, the wheels rose. And this, listen, the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. Above the wheels, Ezekiel sees what he calls an expanse, like the gleaming of an awesome crystal spread out above their heads. And above the expanse, something like a throne, the appearance of sapphire. And seated on the throne, a figure with the appearance of a human form, surrounded in every direction by fire and radiance. And Ezekiel falls on his face. Now, let us slow down and ask, as scholars, as believers, as honest investigators, what did Ezekiel actually see? Option 1, this is purely spiritual symbolism, a vision given by God to communicate divine majesty, sovereignty, and the mobility of God's presence even in exile. The imagery of the wheels, the creatures, the throne, all are rich theological language drawn from the ancient Near Eastern tradition of divine chariots. Under this reading, Ezekiel experienced a vision, not a physical event. Option 2, Ezekiel encountered a genuine physical phenomenon, one that his ancient vocabulary could only describe in the language available to him. He says explicitly, "Such was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord." He is using the language of approximation, like, as it were, the appearance of. He knows he is describing something that outstrips his language. Here is what the text does not say. It does not say he saw aliens. It does not say he saw a spacecraft. Scripture does not use those categories, and neither should we. What the text does say, with remarkable specificity, is this: a structured, luminous, metallic-looking phenomenon descended from the north. It had geometric properties, it moved in coordinated ways, it rose and fell, and the God of Israel was present in it, above it, and spoken from it. Whether physical vehicle, spiritual vision, or both simultaneously, what Ezekiel encountered was real, transformative, and divine in origin. We are not done with the sky. In 2 Kings chapter 2, the prophet Elijah is walking with his successor Elisha toward the Jordan River. Both men know something is about to happen. Elijah has told Elisha to stay behind 3 times. Elisha refuses 3 times. And then, as they walk and talk, as they still went on and talked, behold, chariots of fire and horses of fire separated the two of them, and Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. 2 Kings 2:11. Chariot, fire, whirlwind, ascending into the sky. Elisha witnesses it directly. He cries out, my father, the chariots of Israel and its horsemen." He sees his mentor ascending. He tears his own garments. Now consider what is being described with precision. A vehicle of some kind, called a chariot, that is luminous, that generates what is described as fire, that arrives in the context of a whirlwind, and that physically lifts a human being into the sky. Elijah does not die. He is transported. Later, in 2 Kings chapter 6, Elisha himself prays that his terrified servant might see what he already knows is there. The servant's eyes are opened, and he sees. The mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. An entire host, plural vehicles, surrounding a single prophet, invisible to normal sight until God opened the servant's eyes. What do we make of this? Two careful observations. First, the Hebrew word for chariot here is Merkava, the same root used in Ezekiel's vision. Merkava mysticism in Jewish tradition takes its name precisely from these passages. The chariot of God became one of the most significant theological concepts in Second Temple Judaism, precisely because the biblical authors describe something that moves, that is luminous, and through which the divine acts in the physical world. Secondly, nothing in these texts suggests alien intelligence. What they describe is the means by which the heavenly host, the angels, the divine council, operate within the physical creation. Whether these chariots are symbolic language for angelic power, or whether they represent actual luminous physical vehicles used by the heavenly host, the biblical narrative treats them as real, observable, and effective. So let us bring everything together. We have three categories of evidence on the table. First, the US government in 2026 released over 160 officially declassified files confirming that military pilots, diplomatic staff, and civilian witnesses across the globe have encountered aerial phenomena for which there is, by the government's own admission, no current explanation. These are documented. These are real, and they remain unresolved. Secondly, the Bible, written between approximately 1400 BC and 90 AD, contains multiple accounts of aerial phenomena that bear structural similarities to what modern observers describe: luminous craft-like structures, sound, fire, movement, and the capacity to transport physical beings. Thirdly, the biblical accounts are not detached curiosities. They are embedded in a coherent theological framework. The God of Israel, who is spirit, acts through means, including angels, fire, cloud, wind, and what the text calls his glory. The question of whether these means are physical in our sense of the word is one we cannot fully answer, but the biblical authors treat them as observable, effective, and real. So, are UFOs in the Bible? Here is the honest, scripturally grounded answer. The Bible does not use the category of UFO. That is a modern concept. But the Bible does describe, repeatedly and with specificity, the visible activity of God and his angelic host in the physical world. Activity that is luminous, mobile, audible, and sometimes terrifying. It describes vehicles of divine transportation, Merkava, that operate according to spiritual realities beyond our current scientific vocabulary. Are today's UAPs the same? We do not know. The Bible does not tell us. What the Bible does tell us is this: the heavenly realm is real. It intersects the physical world. There are beings, angels, who operate as divine agents in the created order. They are not confined to the spiritual realm in the way we might imagine. They have appeared as men, as fire, as armies, as chariots. And the God who commands them is sovereign over every realm, heavenly, earthly, and whatever lies between. Should Christians be afraid of UAPs? No. Should Christians be dismissive? Also no. Should Christians use unverified speculation to build grand theories about alien creators of humanity? Absolutely not. That directly contradicts the Genesis account of divine creation. What Christians should do is what Ezekiel did, what Elisha did, what Moses did. Fall on their faces in awe at the majesty of a God whose creation is far larger, stranger, and more glorious than any of our categories can contain. Before we close, I want to hear from you, and I mean genuinely. We have looked at the government files. We have read Ezekiel, and we have watched Elijah ascend in fire. Here is my question for you, and I want you to comment below right now. Do not wait until the end. Do you believe the chariots of fire described in Scripture were spiritual symbols only? Or do you believe they were actual physical vehicles operating under divine command? There is no wrong answer here. This is a question theologians have wrestled with for centuries, and your perspective matters. Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And one more thing. If this video has made you think differently about the intersection of faith, Scripture, and what we're seeing in our sky today, share it with one person. Just one. Because these conversations are too important to keep to yourself.